Murder? We have one. Chapter 2. The Melancholy Precinct. Written by Richard Haia. Work was a place he rather liked, for the simple reason that there wasn't much of it. It functioned more as a social club than a busy office, though he himself was no great people person. A few polite exchanges in the course of a day were enough to recharge his mental batteries. That was exactly what happened today. A handful of pleasant greetings, a dash of positive energy, and at the very least no outright negativity, which in these dreary times felt like a small triumph. He was the chief of police in a tiny town where nothing ever happened. Perfect. He didn't have to rush in the mornings, and when his shift ended he never waited by the phone for late-night emergencies. He didn't even know where his service pistol was. He'd tucked it away long ago and forgotten the exact hiding place, and nobody cared to check. Who would bother driving to the ends of the earth, this forgotten hamlet, just to inspect an empty station? His precinct helped keep the department's average crime rate low, and that was enough to ensure inspections were limited to a perfunctory phone call, after which he'd color the report ever so slightly to suggest that something, anything, had been examined. He cherished that calm, though it left him growing sluggish and inert, like a bear confined in too small a cage. Perhaps that was why his wife had left. She'd needed to break free into the wider world. She'd watched him quietly fading, losing interest in everything as though his only task was to endure until the end. Everywhere around him was wilting too. Their unrepaired apartment, the broken appliances gathering dust, even the peeling oil paint on the precinct walls. He strolled through town, enjoying the extra minutes of fresh air. He let his mind wander over the life he might have led, the life he did lead, and the life he might still have once he retired. And, once in a while, he liked to burn off a few calories. Otherwise, he either sat behind a desk or drove his uniformed bulk from one end of town to the other, which only piled on the pounds. If his rank was to mean anything, he didn't want it to signify a man as flabby as his own complacent routine. When he reached his office, he stopped short. On his scratched lacquer-topped desk stood a pristine white plate, topped with a cream pastry, one of those tall, layered Napoleons, a single lit candle spun into the cream like a festive periscope. The faint tang of match-head sulphur still hung in the air. To him that smell was the very scent of paradise, not of hell. At the door stood Zofia, the senior clerk. She was older than he was and looked more worn by life, also alone, a widow for the past 10 years. At the sight of her, he blew out the candle and hurriedly pocketed it. "Happy birthday, Chief," Zofia said with warm formality. He wondered for a fleeting moment if she ever thought of him in more than professional terms. Probably not. She'd been close friends with his wife, and he sensed that female loyalty had drawn a line between them. No fault of hers, he told himself. They'd shared confidences about his brooding moods and complaints, and none of it painted him in a flattering light. He couldn't blame them, only himself. Whatever harsh words they'd whispered, they'd likely been true. It was his own nature, after all, and he'd learned long ago not to fuss over what he couldn't change. "Thank you. Truly touched you remembered," he said, a little too mechanically, then chuckled. "I'll be sure to factor this into next quarter's bonuses." No one laughed. He made a mental note to work on his comic timing. Behind Zofia, the young officers filed in. They'd been rookies a few years back, full of vigor and that brash confidence you only have at the outset of life or career, attributes this place soon ground away. "Pyotr, A handsome brunette in his mid-20s, looked perpetually bleary-eyed but still managed to keep the crease in his trousers crisp. His hair was trendy, face clean-shaven, boots polished to a mirror shine, everything the chief had once been too indifferent to care about. Pyotr was unmarried, and the chief guessed he never would be lonely. He knew nothing of the man's private life and didn't pry, but Pyotr's affable smile suggested no dark secrets, only simple optimism. He seemed cut from the cloth of someone who never quite found reason to lose heart. Next came Teresa. They'd just marked her 36th birthday a week earlier, a rather melancholy occasion since she'd broken off her engagement. Rumor had it she was now seeing Pyotr. But the chief never mastered the code of human relationships. She struck him as plain enough, though after years of solitude her plainness appeared almost luminous. He'd sometimes dreamed, vaguely, of a life with Teresa, but always his dreams dissolved into shapeless images. He knew any real attachment would falter and fade, much like everything else. Some say human nature is built for polygamy, an evolutionary imperative to spread one's seed far and wide. He disagreed. He believed people weren't cut out for any lasting bond. Humanity was a narcissistic race, doomed to self-destruction, if not physically compelled to reproduce again and again. That had nothing to do with Teresa, though. To him she was another species entirely, an astronaut of the mind, forever adrift among alien worlds. She devoured books of science fiction, Asimov's Foundation, Herbert's Desert Dune, Philip K. Dick's Psychedelic Voyages. He could not fathom what she carried in her head, the vastness of imaginary realms, the perilous visions, the tangled theories. Often she seemed to daydream as she walked, present only in body while her spirit was off on some interplanetary mission. Teresa appeared last in the doorway. She didn't join in the chorus of greetings. Her uniform hung loosely over her slender frame, though she had always been thin. Today her copper-red hair was flattened at the roots, and a few rebellious strands stood on end like stray wires. She looked paler than usual, and for a heartbeat the chief feared she was ill. Yet something about that pallor made her more real, more attainable. She opened her mouth wordlessly for a moment, making her seem both awkward and hauntingly beautiful, until she finally spoke. "Sir, we have a murder."